everyone, and welcome back to Rio Talk. I'm Maddie Gastelum.
Leo Villanueva.
Jake Laurel.
And today we're going to talk about, how do I even phrase this? The giant...
Wealth and privilege.
25?
Wealth and privilege.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, the specific thing we're talking about is
admission scandal.
College admission scandal worth, what, $25 million?
Yeah.
Well, that's where the number is right now.
With over 50 people indicted so far? 50, right?
What?
No, less than 50.
Well, there were 50 people indicted. Well, there were 50 people named.
Yes, named.
There were 50 people named in the indictment.
Including two very popular celebrities.
Felicity Jones?
And Lori Loughlin.
I just know William H. Macy.
Huffman. No.
Huffman.
Lori Loughlin.
Laughlin, yeah.
I just know William.
Full House. And Fuller House.
You guys watch that show?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I watch it. It's not bad. It's on Netflix. There's only so many things you can watch.
I wasn't a big fan. Uncle Jesse was kind of cool, but I wasn't really interested.
But anyway, basically the whole entire thing is the FBI blew this thing wide open.
Operation Varsity Blues.
Yes, yeah. Operation Varsity Blues. A bunch of celebrities and other very wealthy, privileged people were caught in this giant case where they basically paid for their kids to get automatic acceptance into very big schools such as Harvard, Yale, Stanford, USC. And other Ivy Leagues, USC.
But the mastermind, or the supposed, or the alleged mastermind, is William Singer, known as Rick. To all these people, Singer. Cool Rick, I don't know, but they call him Rick. So the situation is this: the guy started out helping kids back in sometime in 1994. He was helping kids gear up for college, see their potential, help them apply to colleges, stuff like that. And then a door opened up, a magic door, a money door.
Money door.
And
the back door.
So he started mingling. He started doing business with folks that had some cash, whose kids couldn't necessarily get into schools on their own merit. Mm-hmm. So he started this foundation, and through that foundation, parents would make a payment to this foundation, and that foundation was used to launder that money so they could use that money to bribe people.
Right. And I mean, along with that, the way that like these kids were like admitted to schools were coaches like falsifying records saying that they were recruited athletes, which if you don't know how it works, basically athletics, you don't have to meet the deadline for certain applications. You can do delayed deadlines if the coach really, really wants you for that school as late as like a couple months before the fall semester starts. So they don't really look into that as much as they should because, you know, it's an athlete and athletics brings money to the school.
If they could get in on their own academic merit, then they wouldn't have to go that route, right?
Exactly.
So generally there's a couple of ways to get into school, into good schools.
And they were
and that's through academic merit or
athletics.
Or if you're highly competitive, you're on that competitive level of athletics.
It was truly wild, some of the things that they were doing. Like, I guess in one particular case, for one particular kid that was going to USC, I think it was, that they photoshopped a picture of this student over another student's body to make it look like he was a baseball player.
No, that's one of the things they were doing.
Oh, that's wild.
What Singer was doing was he was getting together with these parents and he was coaching the parents on fabricating athletic portfolios, right? And they would stage these photos with the kids, like, you know, maybe throwing a football, and they'd add that to the portfolio. And also they were getting stock photos of other athletes and photoshopping the faces of the children onto them. Yeah. That is just that's over the top.
And now, I mean, I'm seeing my little sister go through the stress of SATs, and they were also, like, having kids go in and take the SAT, pretending to be that kid. So there's also that they did. They just falsified SAT scores altogether.
Oh, they didn't just falsify SAT scores. Singer was getting together with these parents, advising the parents to send their kids to see a therapist, get a letter from the therapist that they can take back to the, or get a letter from the therapist that said they needed more time to take the SATs or the ACTs.
Okay.
And what they would do was they would find a company who would give them the extra time, and Singer would then get one of his co-conspirators to oversee the exam, and they would either have somebody take the test for the kid who could pass it, or they would correct the answers and then submit it with the corrected answers.
The other thing that I know that the parents
Parents were paying somewhere between, what was it, $15,000 and $17,000 per exam to
Well,
get that done?
Just the exam.
I know
think altogether the highest a parent paid was $5 million, right? Something similar.
Oh,
Yeah,
6.5
for the whole
million.
package.
Yeah, somebody paid,
the
one of the
whole
parents,
college entrance package.
one of the parents paid 6.5 million
Yeah.
to
And
get
then
the
one
whole,
parent-
for the whole package deal.
and
the
then one parent
pictures,
had
the
like a
portfolio.
The
500
pictures of Faith Athletics. USC has
the-
been the biggest perpetrator. Obviously, if you have that title on you, I go to USC.
Oh,
Like,
Yale,
you-
Stanford,
Yeah.
Georgetown, there were some big schools named in that situation.
Yeah, and I mean, because USC is such a big athletic school that they had the most so to say, singers recruits for athletic wise, just because there's so many sports at that school, and it's such an elite school that I have a feeling that it wasn't looked into as solidly as it could have been versus other schools where maybe athletics are looked at just a little bit more closely.
The other shady thing also too that I would also like to highlight is because especially for us people that are regular people, like if we
Regular
were
people.
a lot of what the parents were doing where they were taking these because they would donate this money to this charity organization, right, which is
Like
obviously
boosters.
yes, and they would use these donations as tax exemptions. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things. Yeah. So
Not only were
yeah,
they-
see,
not only were they-
under the advisement or at the behest of Singer, employees of the charity would issue out acknowledgement letters of no goods and services exchanged. And what the parents were allowed to do was claim this on their taxes and get some cash back.
So these
they
guys are not that
defrauded the
innocent.
government.
So what do
Yeah.
you, I mean, obviously, like
They
going
defrauded you,
to a
taxpayers.
JC that's in an area where you can look at it and say it's like lower middle class, like how do you guys like feel that,
Well-
like being as qualified or even more qualified than these kids that are getting into these super elite schools, like what does that like kind of like spell out to you guys? I mean, for me, like I'm kind of upset, like I got denied from SDSU and I saw some girls that got into SDSU and personally, I don't know,
I don't see. Well, I haven't seen any evidence presented that suggests that this affected the playing field.
How could-
You
how-
have
how could it
every
not-
opportunity
how
to
could
get
it not,
into a
though?
good school based on your athletic
yeah, I mean,
ability
that's a
or
question, like-
on your academic.
But if
Yeah.
but if you know the pool is tainted with athletic pools and people that should not be there based upon this story that you
Look,
know
dude,
are not there.
if they can't compete, they can't compete. They're not going to
But
take your
clearly
spot. They're
these
not
guys-
going to take first base.
These guys
I
are
really
competing.
think they are though,
And they're
because
not
like let's
there.
say
They
let's
can't-
say these schools only have a certain number, so that way they stay quote
Okay, that's
unquote
different.
elitist.
When
They're
they
like
take-
we only let 100 people in, and
So if
then
they
of
take a
those
spot,
100, it's a certain amount, and
if
they
they're
took a
t-
spot.
if a true athlete is getting bumped from a spot so that it could be filled by one of
Well,
these
not
parents,
even an athlete.
that's a different
because
situation.
those like the kids that were labeled as like athletes, they never even really got a chance to like look. I'm not speaking athletics. I'm talking about like school spots. Like let's say Stanford, for instance, for example, hypothetically speaking, we're like, oh, we only take 100 kids a year. Like that's like broadcasted out to the world because that makes Stanford look super elitist. And then out of those 100 spots, like people are paying to get in, and they're like knocking kids out that could easily take that spot, but they're not paying to get in. They're just
That-
hoping and praying
in
based
that
on their own academic
In that
merit.
situation, it's unfair. There is a level of
Completely.
unfairness taking place,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. And these people did the crime, and no doubt will either pay the fine or do the time.
I mean, that's the bummer too, because are they really gonna actually like? Is this actually
pay a
gonna?
fine.
Yeah, they're gonna pay a fine. Like
Well,
they're
let's
gonna pay a
wait-
fine,
let's
and
wait
it's
and
just gonna
see.
like get brushed
This is a
off.
fluid situation.
If we were to be
so-
realistic, though, if we were to be realistic, would any one of us, if we were to be indicted for the same thing, we would be serving jail time right now?
Oh, yeah.
The only difference is we don't have that money.
So the difference is, so if you had the money, would you commit the crime?
No, but that's not what we're arguing. here.
Okay, so then there's a moral issue. They've crossed
Definitely a
they've
moral
crossed a
issue.
line, moral and legal line here that you're saying you're not willing to cross. So there's a clear distinction. You're okay doing what you're doing here at Rio Hondo,
Yeah,
okay, and you'll make your way in the world, despite what these people have done.
yeah.
And
We hope.
whether or not you go to USC, you're gonna be okay. You guys are good students. You guys have a good head on your shoulders. You'll be okay. This isn't going to affect your life.
Well, not us specifically, but like Well, I mean, who's to say that it hasn't already affected people and we just didn't know about it up until now?
I'm sure it's affected some people, but I think this is not as sad and horrific as the Penn State situation, but this is bigger than Penn State. This is, personally, I'm not a fan of
Ivy League?
elitist schools and the high cost of going to those schools.
Yeah, I mean, I don't picture myself going
we're
to one
getting
of
a
those
similar
schools, but
education here
I'm mad
at
for
Rio.
those that, like, you know, that's their dream school, that's their big hope, and, like, let's just say a couple years back, some kid didn't get into the
And got
school that they
rejected
absolutely wanted
by
to.
some kid getting photoshopped of his face over a fake picture.
Yeah, or
I'm
just
pretty
buying
pissed,
their
too.
way in. And that's like, I mean, we all make that joke about private schools saying that, like, oh, you can buy your way into it. But knowing that people are actually buying their way into it, it's kind of like, whoa, I didn't mean it. You didn't have to go that
Exactly.
far.
This may be difficult to accept, but the real victims in this situation may be the children of the parents who paid
Oh,
Singer
definitely.
to get
I mean,
this done.
I know
This is going
I know
to affect
a couple
their
athletes
lives.
myself who are suffering horribly at this point because they've been like brushed under the rug grade wise. So I know.
Wealth and privilege.
Yeah.
get you
It's a
things.
crazy thing. Yeah, people do crazy stuff.
And right here we have a statement from Chapman University saying that yesterday the Department of Justice held the press conference announcing the outcome of the 10th month investigation, and they have indicted almost 50 individuals, and Chapman has been linked to the issue in the media and is responding to many media inquiries.
Hopefully not the journalism department.
They state that we have been and are currently cooperating with the Department of Justice in their investigation. Chapman prides itself on an open and fair admission process and is not aware, nor have been advised that we have been involved in any wrongdoing. So that's one school. There we go.
Well, I have a question. What do you think about? Do you think Rio is having a problem?
No,
with
Chapman
admissions?
states that they are taking the situation very seriously and intend to thoroughly review the situation to assure themselves that their principles have not in any way been compromised. So again, I mean, there are schools out there that are good. You don't have to look at every single private school and think like, oh, the whole entire acceptance, admissions, everything is corrupt, because obviously the schools that have been pointed out have been, but it's good that Chapman has gone this far to say that they are making sure that they're doing their most. And we hope that by this situation happening, that other private schools and other schools that may have not looked so critically at their athletics departments or the way that students are getting in, that this situation brings light and that other schools are able to look at the way they're running their admissions.
Transparency seems to be a trend these days in politics and business and just about everything. Watch your step, people. Don't do stupid stuff. Everybody's recording you.
We would just hope that everyone would live their life based on morals and ethics, which we have recently learned about.
The lines are still a little blurry there, but okay.
But we would hope that with all of this happening, that many more schools look at the way their admissions are being run and hope that maybe now things will become even more fair if it wasn't already to begin with.
But if they're required to get in on their own merit, that means no trophy for everybody. I don't know. I'm confused these days about so
The
many
millennial
different things.
question. Is participation awarded
Oh,
to
man, the
everyone?
participation
That's a
award
whole
question.
different thing.
Yeah, I couldn't.
I'm not a millennial.
Yeah, let's not get into that one right now.
But I would say that that's it for Rio Talk. Let us know what you guys all think about the recent situation and see if that affects the way you feel about college admissions to public schools, private schools, and many schools throughout the country. I'm Maddie Gastelum,
Leo Villanueva.
Jake Laurel.
and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.